Danielle, for the introduction, and thank you very much for the invitation to be here today. It's my pleasure to tell you about this work we have been doing in Mozambique, joined with Pedro Vicente, and basically what we have been doing is sizing the opportunity that mobile money was about to be introduced in Mozambique, and we have partnered with the only mobile money provider in Mozambique to introduce it in a random way in rural areas of the country. So that's the basic essence. These are the first results. I'll tell you about the work we are doing, but these are basically the first results we get from this work. And let me start with a bit of basic motivation about the country. Okay? We have been talking about other sub-Saharan African countries where basically access to financial services is very poor. Well, in Mozambique, this access is even lower. As you can see, so the average for sub-Saharan Africa, I mean, the numbers that we have been hearing is all about 20%. So the access to informal banking accounts, savings accounts. In Mozambique, the figure for this is 1.3%. So really, really low. So that's the setting in which we are working. And then we have another aspect that could be relevant for mobile money, given the case of the great success of Kenya, for example, is money transfers. Right? So again, the access that people have to formal transfers is lower than 20%. So that's the setting in which we are going to operate. And of course, the opportunity, and here mobile money, what kind of service are we talking about? Okay, so we are talking about basic features. Where obviously you have to be able to cash in, you are also able to transfer e-money to another person, okay, that already has a service or not. Anyone having a cell phone in Mozambique, even if it belongs to a different network, can get the transfer. And then of course you can also pay for products, provided that you have a shop in front of you that takes mobile money payments. And finally, of course, you need to be able to cash out the money, and for that you need a local agent. So, okay, so the inspiration, I guess, for most of us working on this, as was described already today, is Kenya. Okay, this huge success, this opportunity that we all want to know, can it be replicated elsewhere? Okay, and we also know that it was so fast that there was really no opportunity to get causal effects of this introduction, right? So that's the opportunity here, I'm going to skip some parts, but we have large literature, at least really present here, that has described this huge success, and we learned a lot from this, and with this information, we design our project, okay? So I'll tell you about the broad project, and then I'll focus on the paper I'll be telling you about here today. So this project is about, it's an impact evaluation, randomized field experiment, as introduction of mobile money, which is branded M-Cash in Mozambique, in rural locations for this country. So the first stage was really the agent recruitment. So as I said, we were able to partner with a mobile money provider and choose where we were going to place these agents. Okay, so we were able to. So we had the map. We had the areas where it was possible to install agents. Namely, there had to be cell phone coverage, and banks had to be not too far away. So there would have to be a bank in the district. Okay, district has several hundreds of thousands of people, so it's not really a very binding requirement. But that was the first stage. Okay, so first we recruited the agents, and then we did a dissemination of the product in these rural areas. Okay. This had been completed last year, so about nearly 1 year ago. And the second stage, which we have been working on, and it's now pretty much complete, is we then went to disseminate this service with the migrants. Okay, so I'll show you the map. We basically focus on rural areas that form a strong migration corridor to the capital city, Maputo. And so we have been, after we went to rural locations, we got information on these, the family members for these families that were living in Maputo, so we have been targeting these. And again, we did some randomized dissemination where we have different treatments, different techniques to try and promote mobile money use with migrants in the city. But that's not what I'll be talking about here. And of course, the third stage of the project will be the follow-up over time for both rural and migrants. So that's the overall project, the paper. This paper here focus basically on the first reactions, basically, to this mobile banking dissemination in rural communities. Okay, so we have basically, I'll be showing you data up to 2 months after intervention. The reason why is that afterwards we started with the intervention with the migrants. Okay, what are our main research questions? Well, first of all, okay, we are going to tell you if people are using it, right? So adoption, first of all. Who uses it, for what purposes, that's data we have. But then I think what everyone is really interested in knowing is to have, some experimental evidence, okay, where you compare the treatment and the control locations and evaluate whether, what's the impact of introducing the service, of the availability, the new availability of the service on people's behavior, namely remittances and savings. So that's our focus here, but as I say, this is coming out of the baseline intervention. So, 2 months after as well. And so basically what we did was we played some games with people, trying to assess, so both in control and treatment areas, trying to assess what's the impact on remittance behavior and savings behavior of this introduction. And what are the kind of questions we are interested in? Well, we know that, say, for remittance behavior, traditionally what people do in Mozambique is, the alternatives they have in terms of savings behavior is you give your money, say in Maputo, to a bus driver, and you pray for it to get to its final destination. Okay? In the meantime, you pay 20%, it may take a while, so it's not really the ideal remittance channel. Or, what many people tell us they do, and we have been working with migrants in Maputo even before this project, we had this information when we were designing this paper, is they just wait to go home. Okay? And there are risks involved, as Bill was saying. Okay, so those were the alternative remittance channels that people had. You could expect that when you make a new service available, a new remittance service available that is instant, that is safe, that is very low cost, maybe the overall amount of remittances is going to increase, right? So that's one of our questions. Is it really, is the pie of remittances increasing? So that's the first question. And then, of course, you want to know whether even, the first question is independent of the second, okay? Whatever the size of the pie of remittances, what's the channel that people prefer to use? That is there any substitution between the traditional remittance channels and this new channel, the mobile money? So substitution effect after you look at the overall effect on the existence or the magnitude of remittances. Okay, so that's what our second main question, and then we want to ask kind of the same question for savings. Okay, the picture is not as bad for savings as for remittances. Actually, in the areas that we are working with, which are not the most isolated in Mozambique, like nearly a quarter of people have actually banking accounts, okay? But mostly they use an informal arrangement. So the question here is, okay, first of all, as we said for remittances, are there unmet needs for savings, okay? So is the pie increasing again? But then also, do people substitute? Do they believe that, okay, the safety of having mobile money instead of keeping money in their homes, or the convenience of using this service gets people to substitute for it. Okay, and I have 10 minutes. So that's why I give you a preview of results, because I know time is not a good thing. I'm not a good time here. So let me give the preview of results, and then I'll try to show you some of the work we did in addition to this. Okay, so basically on adoption, we have both the admin data from our partner, the mobile money provider, and we also have some behavioral measures. Okay, so this is just a quick summary, but basically we got that 64% of people in our treatment locations, and I should say that our design, and I'm not giving all the details, but our design includes the measurement of spillovers. So in these treatment areas we have both targeted individuals that were given individual dissemination and targeted individuals. So 64% is the average for both, okay? So it's 75% for the targeted individuals. So people were using it, they had at least one transaction in the 2 months after this initial dissemination. So after we left, in the 2 months after, 64% of people were using it independently. Then, we have some behavioral measures. One of them, okay, this is just indicative, said that 81%, so basically we did some We were giving trial money to people in individual treatments. We told them, we taught them how to deposit, how to make a purchase, and then we were asking, so now, what do you want to do with this money, with this balance that is left in your account? Do you want to take it out? Do you want to keep it there? And basically, there were 81% of people chose to keep the money in their mobile money account, which, at least shows that they were trusting what was happening. They had in front of them an agent that could do the cash out immediately, okay? So, that's on adoption. We have some more indicators, but these are just some of them. And then on transfers and savings. So the experimental behavioral measures that we get from our games shows that there is some evidence of this marginal willingness. Marginal willingness because this is a game, right? This is not reality. Reality we are going to get now when we get the follow-up data. But in this game, we measure this marginal willingness to increase remittances, which makes a lot of sense given the background that I was telling you about, okay? This lack of alternatives. And in terms of substitution, okay? Substituting existing ways of remitting, existing ways of savings to Mcash, okay, choose Mcash instead, we find clear evidence for both remittances and savings, okay. Finally, we have some also experimental measures, survey measures that tell us that the dissemination campaign we did was highly successful in increasing both information and trust in the service. Information, broadly speaking, this is financial literacy, which we did. And so this was, rather successful, which, it's not sufficient, but it will be a necessary condition, one would think. Okay, outline, very long. I probably won't tell you too much about Mozambique, just that there is good coverage and there is a competitive mobile phone market, even though there is there was up to like 2 months ago, a single mobile money operator. Vodafone has just launched their service, but it's still a long way from being actually working. Okay, experimental design, so it's, we basically randomize treatment, okay, in coordination with the mobile money operator. I'll tell you a bit more, but in terms of measurement, we have administrative records from the operator. We have these behavioral measures, these games that I was telling you about, and some others that I probably won't have the time to go over. And then we have, of course, before and after pilot service. Okay, so the first thing we did in terms of treatment was agent recruitment and training. Okay, so let me show you some photos. Basically, we were choosing shopkeepers, the most trusted, the one with reputation, the ones with full shelves, so that it will help liquidity. Okay, so this was done. Most of it was done between March and May 2012. Although I remember being there in November 2011 when we were first trying to looking at exactly which agents we were going to recruit. Okay, so this was the first stage, the recruitment that we did. And then we had community treatment, okay? So basically, we had these meetings, okay, where a theater was done, okay, half Portuguese, half Xangana, which is the local language that most people spoke or speak. And basically, this theater had a script, okay, followed in all locations that emphasized aspects such as safety, okay? Usually people, or most people report like keeping their money in cans buried underground, like the theater was showing, like the neighbor coming and getting your can with your savings, okay? We get this in the results on trust, actually. Trust on neighbors seems to decrease. This is a minor side comment, but it's just interesting. And okay, the results, or you can see the video with this treatment in our website, but basically, this was the theater emphasized aspects like the advantages of mobile money and how you can make transactions with it. Okay, so this was community level, and then we had individual level treatment. Okay, individual level treatment was done based on a leaflet provided by the mobile money operator, and basically what we did is we did it with the people. We helped them self-register. We gave them trial money, so about $3 to each person that they had to cash in at the local agent. Then they had to they had to check their balance first, then do a purchase, and then we explained how to cash out, how to transfer. Okay, and we actually had a game in which we were, which we measured the willingness to cash out after this. Okay, so this is basically the leaflet. As you can see, very simple. It always starts with star 500 ASCII, and then you have simple instructions to follow. So we did this with the people. They had information on the fees. So exactly how we did this, basically we are working in 3 provinces, okay, and I'll show you the map. So these are the 3 provinces in which we are working, so all in the south. This is Maputo city, probably some of you cannot see it at the bottom, and then these are our locations. So treatment locations in red, control locations in yellow, and basically this area constitutes a strong migration corridor to Maputo. Okay, and I should be speaking here, I'm afraid, if you're not listening at the back. Okay, so we have 102 enumeration areas, and okay, so 51 treatment, 51 control, and again, and I won't be able to explain this, but we have, I mean, our sample within each enumeration area has both targeted individuals that receive individual treatment and untargeted, so that we can measure spillover effects. Okay, so measurement, I've already told you that we have the data from criteria model, then the games. Okay, the games take a little while to explain, but let me just give it a try. So, for instance, savings game. What we were doing is we were giving this 20 meticais bill to the respondents, so about $1. And the first thing we asked him was, what do you want to do with it? Do you want to just keep it? Okay, just have it, go and do whatever you want with it, or do you want to keep it aside? And I should say that the word saving, for example, does not exist in the local language. It was one of the challenges for our work. So basically, do you want to keep it aside? That's the phrasing that was followed. And people would say, okay, I mean, and then people will decide whether to save it or not. If they wanted to save it, that is, put it aside, they would have to choose between 2 alternatives. They could either just cash in into your Mcash account, okay, use mobile money to keep this marginal, this note, this bill that you're getting, or do you want to go for the default option, okay? Now we know that the default option is keeping money under the matrix, but this is not observable to us as researchers. So we had to find an alternative that would allow us to measure these alternative savings, so that now when we go back, we'll also be able to see what people were doing. Okay, we know what they do with their mobile money because we have admin data on that, but we also want to be able to measure what happened to that bill that we gave them that they wanted to save. Okay, so what we did was we gave them this envelope. Okay, so we explained everything first, of course, and basically told them, well, if you want to have this bill for saving, but you do not want to keep it in your mobile money account, maybe you want to keep it in this envelope. It will be kept with you, okay? We'll seal it to make sure that we can observe that you did not open it, and you'll get interest, okay? So you'll get 5 meticais, which is like 25% of what you are getting. When we come back and we check that this envelope is still sealed. Okay, so this is a way for us to observe savings when we come back. Does it make any sense? Okay, people usually react like, this is very strange, too original maybe. Okay, so we think it's valuable because it's an alternative way of measuring. Okay, things that usually we cannot measure, right? We ask about it in surveys, we also do, but we cannot really observe it. So here we can observe it. Okay, and if you think about it, it makes sense that this is the last bill, the last 20 meticais that people are going to use, because if they have other savings, they should be spending those first. Okay, they keep these under the mattress with the rest of the money, but this should be the last money that they are going to use, because they know, I mean, when we come back, we'll give them some extra money, so interest. Okay, so I'll have to skip because I'm being told I don't have any more time, basically. But we did something similar with remittances. Okay, again, we were giving money to people and we were asking them, do you want to send it with them, or do you want to send it, do you want to keep it first? And if you want to send it, do you want to use mobile money, or do you want to send it via us, which was the observable alternative that we had. Just keeping, we experimental measures on information and trust. We have other adoption behavioral measures that I put at the end, but basically, this one is, I think, very interesting because we wanted to try and measure how willing, or what would be the willingness for people to use mobile money for transfers, okay? And basically, we did this game again where the rural respondent to whom we were talking had to communicate with the migrant in the city so that he would send us an SMS saying, yes, I know this service exists, I know that this service exists and that it can be used to make transfers. And we were going to pay like $2 each for them to do so. This didn't work out very well, and this calls our attention to the need of targeting directly the migrants. Okay, something we learned from here that I would be able to summarize. Okay, so then Okay, specifications very easy, comparing control and treatment, balance was fine. Sorry, I know I shouldn't be doing this, but I summarized what we're going to find at the beginning. So basically we have, so here we just have the mean of the treatment location. That's the first row, and this is not, I mean, these tables are not so user-friendly, but this is what we have here in the second block of results is basically the treatment effect. That is comparing targeted versus untargeted individuals, and we get some strong results. So I'll summarize basically with what I already said. So basically people are using Mcash. They use it mostly for deposits and or the transactions that we get that they are doing is deposits and receiving transfers. Okay. They don't do many purchases. They do lots of airtime purchases, and they did not withdraw too much. Okay. Behavior, so I showed an admin data, that's the most important. Information and trust, very good outcomes. So our campaign did work. And the games, okay? As I told you, basically, I mean, for savings, we do not find evidence, significant evidence at least, that the amount of savings tends to increase in treatment locations relative to control, but we do have some evidence that there is a tendency to remit more in treatment locations. In terms of substitution, these are columns 4, 5, 6 for savings, and people do seem to be willing to put some money into savings that was not being saved or that was being saved before elsewhere, and the same thing for remittances. Okay, spillovers, we do have some, but this is very short run. Okay, so concluding remarks. So basically, we have evidence of strong Mcash adoption in rural areas following our dissemination. We have evidence that people may be willing, okay, and this is a game, it has, I mean, we cannot extrapolate too much, but there is evidence that people may be willing to increase how much they remit, and they seem to also be clearly willing to substitute, to use mobile money for savings and remittance that they were doing in other ways. Okay, just to give you a broad picture on what we are doing here, so basically we will keep studying the effect of our intervention on migrants. Okay? This is something that we are doing, so we randomize the way we disseminate within migrants. We are following these people, and at the same time, okay, we are doing 2 other RCTs on mobile money in Mozambique. Okay, so one has, I mean, very shortly, one is focused on promoting micro-enterprise development in urban Maputo, and the other one is using mobile money to promote agricultural modernization in Makerere province. Okay, so basically these projects are basically focusing more on mobile money as a way to promote savings. Okay, we pay interest, that we cannot call interest, of course, as you all know, because central bank doesn't allow it, but we pay a bonus. That's what the central bank told us to call it, really. And so we keep working on this, and here what we want to see is how can we use this technology for other purposes, namely this feature of saving. Okay, so I think we can discuss more of it later. So thank you so much for your attention.